Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today, we'll have Blaize's first time planning a Disney World trip. That's coming on this episode 457 of WDW Prep To Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep To Go, where we talk strategy and ideas and have lots and lots of trip reports for people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 457. Today, it is a trip report with someone who was planning a Disney World trip for the first time. We don't get these super often, so it is always fascinating to me to listen to how a first-timer puts a trip together when there's so much to learn. And so you will hear that from Blaize here in just a second. As always, a reminder to follow on social media. And if you would like, participate in the Q&As that we have on Instagram every Tuesday and a couple times a month on Facebook on Wednesdays. So please join us there. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to email info@wdwprepschool.com. And if you're not already a patron, that's another great way. We're very active with the patrons, including in the Facebook group, and we would love to have you. The link to do that is in the show notes of every episode. So without any further ado, here are my chats with Blaize. Welcome to the podcast, Blaize.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We are talking on Thursday, March 27th, and I understand you're going to Disney World.
Yes, we are. We're very excited.
Who's we?
So it'll be myself, my husband, and my 2 children. My daughter is 3 and my son is 4.
Okay. And what are your trip dates?
We will be leaving March 31st and returning April 3rd.
Okay. And is this the first trip for anyone?
It will be the first trip for my kids and my husband. I have been, it was a very long time ago, 25 years ago, in fact. So
okay.
It was the summer that I was 10 years old. My mom and my brothers and my grandmother went.
Okay. So first time planning a trip.
Yes, it is.
All right. So this is going to be all new to you in that way. And obviously to the little ones as well. How did you decide to travel these dates?
I'm a teacher and next week is our spring break. My son is in school this year. So it just kind of worked out that spring break would be the best time for us to go.
That is a kind of different spring break compared to a lot of districts.
Yeah, I've heard. So we're in South Georgia. For us, this time of the year is pretty normal. But I hear that, you know, in the northern parts of the country that spring break is sooner than we have it.
Yeah. I mean, some sooner, like I'm in Texas and it tends to be sooner, but then a lot of people are closer to Easter. So you're just kind of in the middle there.
Right.
And okay. So you're going during your spring break because it works out with your schedule.
Yes.
And are you guys driving or flying?
We're driving. So like I said, we're in South Georgia. We are only about 4.5 hours from Orlando. And it's a pretty easy drive. We just hop on 75 and basically go the whole way down to Orlando.
Okay. So are you driving then on Monday, March 31st from your house to Disney World?
We are. I hope to leave our house at 6 a.m. It should be pretty easy to do that. My kids are used to getting up really early in the morning for school. My husband and myself are as well. So my thought is just go ahead and get them up and leave and, you know, almost treat it like a normal day for us.
Yeah. For people that are used to getting up and going, that just becomes part of the routine. And then where are you staying when you get to Disney World?
We're staying at Pop Century Resort.
Okay. How did you decide on Pop Century?
So initially, I planned this trip back mid-July of 24, and I was just putting in dates and checking prices, and it fit. Price-wise, it was what we wanted, and also the extra amenities that came with it. It being on the Skyliner was a big selling point. And I figured that it would be a good starting place for our first Disney trip. We did have the opportunity to upgrade to Port Orleans Riverside, but I still chose to stay at Pop Century simply because of the Skyliner.
Yeah. And I think it's a good choice for a lot of reasons. So when you're leaving at home at 6 a.m., driving to Disney World, are you going straight to Pop Century on that day?
We are not. The plan right now is to arrive at Disney Springs somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock. And I have made an 11 a.m. lunch reservation for T-Rex Cafe. I know my kids will really enjoy that. I told them about it last night and they were super excited. And then we'll shop around Disney Springs for a little bit. I would like to go ahead and get the silhouette portraits are one of the things that is on my must-do list. And I learned a couple weeks ago that they're now being offered at Disney Springs. So I figured I could just go ahead and do it there. That way, when we get to Magic Kingdom, I don't feel rushed or, like we're in any kind of time crunch to get those done. And my son is a big Lego fan, so we may hit up the Lego store while we're there. But as soon as our room is ready, I plan on heading over to Pop Century and getting checked into our room.
Okay. And then after getting checked in, do you have plans?
So we do. Initially, when I was planning the trip, I wanted to go to the Hoop-de-Doo musical review. But unfortunately, Monday night, there is not going to be a show offered. So I was disappointed about that because I love that kind of thing. So instead, what we're going to do, as of right now, our plan is to go over to Fort Wilderness. I don't know if we will drive or if we will get the Lyft minivan. But my kids love horses, so we're going to go to the Tri-Circle D Ranch and look at all the horses and do the pony ride. And then, if my kids can stick it out, we're going to do the Chippendale Campfire Sing-Along at 8 o'clock that night. So those plans are all really flexible. I halfway anticipate my kids seeing the pool and pitching a fit to just swim. And if that's what they want to do, then we're going to roll with it. But personally, I would like to go to Fort Wilderness.
Okay. It is beautiful there. Sure. Okay, so next day is Tuesday, April 1st.
Yes, that is our Magic Kingdom day. I plan to arrive by 8:30. I'm not really in the rope drop mentality, although I know that time does fit what is considered rope dropping. I really want to take more of an easy approach to this trip. We have things that we want to get in, but at the same time, I don't want it to become something that's stressful and just doesn't seem like an enjoyable vacation for us. For us to be there by 8:30, we might take the minivan if we can get one. According to ChatGPT, I need to book it 90 minutes before 8:30. So we're going to try and get one. I feel like that would be a really good thing to splurge on. We'll have a double stroller, and I don't really know how it works getting a stroller on and off the bus, but I think that's just going to be something that is going to just maybe send my husband over the edge. So it might be worth it to get the minivan for us. If not, though, we'll hop on a bus. I have Lightning Lane passes, Journey of the Little Mermaid, 9:55 to 10:55, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh from 12:30 to 1:30, and Peter Pan's Flight from 1:30 to 2:30. So when we first get there, we're going to have some flexibility in terms of what we get on. So I'm hoping that we can knock out a lot of the traditional kid type rides, teacups, Dumbo, all that when we first get there, because I was not able to get Lightning Lane passes for some of those. So that's kind of the game.
I assume you made the Lightning Lanes a few days ago.
I did. So I made them Monday morning of this week. And so I've never done that before. We were on the way to school and I pulled over on the side of the road. And at 6:55, I got into the app and kept refreshing. And I was a little disappointed at the times. I thought that I would be able to get earlier times than I did, but on my end, the earliest thing that I saw was 9:55. So I don't know if I just, wasn't refreshing soon enough or if I was really slow to do it.
No, I think it's because people staying on site can book it for their whole trip. So for your first day, people would have already had access to it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that might be the explanation.
Yeah. Probably. I did not even think about that. I have a Lightning Lane single pass for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train from 5:40 to 6:40, so later in the day. And at first, I didn't really like that, but now I do because I think that gives us a little block of time where we can go back to the room if we need to and not feel super rushed to get back. I don't know that my kids will need that, but if they do, we're going to carve out the time for it. I would rather go back to the room for 2 hours than spend 2 hours with my kids fussing and miserable.
And how did you decide, or are you just making a good guess, what your kids will be interested in riding?
We have gone to Legoland. We went there last year for my son's 4th birthday. And then there's a local theme park near us. It's called Wild Adventures outside of Valdosta, Georgia. So my kids have been exposed to some rides. My son got on a ride at Legoland that we didn't really know was like a full-fledged roller coaster. He probably wasn't quite tall enough to be on it, but he enjoyed it. But when he got off, he was white as a sheet. So, but like I said, he did enjoy it. And then what I have done is shown them videos, like the YouTube videos that are the actual point of views from the rides, and kind of let them tell me whether or not, they would ride it. They have seen Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and they think it's really cool. So, they may be a little scared once they get on it and it gets rolling. I've never been on it. I don't know either, but think they will be okay.
Okay. All right. So you have some lightning lanes booked for during the day and then in the evening as well. Do you have dining plans on this day?
The only dining plans that I have for Magic Kingdom that are must-dos for us is dinner at Tony's Town Square. I have read a lot of really mixed reviews as far as the food goes, but we're going to try it. My daughter loves Lady and the Tramp. So the cartoon version and the live-action version as well. And to me, this trip is more about my kids getting excited over seeing something from Lady and the Tramp than the quality of the food. And maybe that sounds backwards, but for me, for this trip, that's just more of the priority. There are a couple of snack things that I want to try myself throughout the day, but that's the only for sure dining that we have planned. Lunch will just be, whatever my kids are feeling at the moment. They may not even be that hungry. I don't know. So lunch and breakfast is just going to be touch and go.
Maybe quick service?
Probably. My kids, I hate to say that they're picky, but one day they may love corn dogs and then the next day they may hate them. One day they love chicken strips and the next day they hate them. So I would rather just see what they're in the mood for that day than, get something that they're not happy with, or sit down in a restaurant where I know they're not going to eat what's on the menu.
Anything else on Tuesday before we move on to Wednesday?
No, I think that's it for Tuesday. Okay. Oh, we do plan on staying for the fireworks.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right. So the next day is Wednesday, April 2nd.
Yes, April 2nd. This is the day in our trip that I probably am the most nervous about. We are going to park hop between Hollywood Studios and Epcot. I plan on going to Hollywood Studios first. We plan to arrive at 8:30. I have Lightning Lane passes, 9:20 to 10:20 for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, 12:25 to 1:25 for Toy Story Mania, and 1:30 to 2:30 for Alien Swirling Saucers. And then other must-dos for us here at Hollywood Studios is going to be the Disney Junior Dance and Sing, the Frozen Sing-Along, the Beauty and the Beast Sing-Along. My kids really want to meet Olaf. Any other characters there that they would enjoy meeting, we're going to prioritize that. And then as soon as we're done with that, we're going to gauge whether the kids need a nap or not, and then hop over to Epcot. I was not able to book any Lightning Lanes for Epcot because I booked them for Hollywood Studios. I'm not sure if that was a good decision or not, because I know that my kids will love the Frozen ride. And I have been watching wait times since last week, and average wait time on Frozen for over a week now and Remy's have both been about 95 minutes.
But I think after you tap in at Hollywood Studio and you can book another one, you might be able to pick up Frozen.
That is my hope. Even if it is later in the day. So like, even if we've been at Epcot for a while, and Frozen is later in the day, that will be totally fine. I just do not want to have to stand in a line for 95 minutes. And I think my kids would be disappointed if we weren't able to experience that. But at Epcot, we want to try to get Frozen, want to try to get Remy's, Soarin', Living with the Land, and then, some of the other rides that are more kid-friendly. We plan on doing those. We do have a dinner reservation at 6 p.m. for Garden Grill. My kids love Chip and Dale. And when I first booked the trip, I knew that I wanted to do that. And I just like, so I actually teach agricultural education. So I'm into plants and like living with the land. I feel like I'll really get out over that. And so Garden Grill being in with it to me just seems like a really cool thing. So we'll do that and then hang out at Epcot for the second half of the day. I did have a Disney vacation planner help me book my trip, and I texted her earlier this week and I was like, I think Epcot is a full day. I think I'm going to regret not having spent a full day at Epcot because, especially with the flower and garden show going on, I feel like we could spend a whole day there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to do. How did you decide on the trip length for this trip?
We would have stayed another day, but I wanted an extra day at home to decompress and to get our home back in order from a trip before having to roll straight back into work. And so, at the time, 4 days seemed fine. But then once I got really into booking the trip, I have regretted and almost booked another day. But, in my mind, it's like, all right, we're doing this trip. And then the next trip we'll know. So this can be an intro. Right. That's how I'm viewing it.
Yeah. Okay. So then Thursday, April 3rd.
All right, Thursday, which will be our last day there, we will be going to Animal Kingdom. I have Lightning Lane passes for 10:25 to 11:25 for the safari, 11:25 to 12:25 for dinosaur, and 12:25 to 1:25 for Navi River Journey. And I have a Tusker House breakfast reservation at 9 a.m.
Okay.
The safari Lightning Lane pass was later than I wanted it for, but if we mentally feel that we can rope drop Animal Kingdom, we're going to do that and maybe get on the safari without using our Lightning Lane pass for that, and then go into our breakfast reservation. That is kind of what I'm hoping for in the back of my mind. But I do have that cushion if my kids are hard to get out of bed or if we're struggling on getting our car loaded up. I do have that little bit of cushion of time there.
Speaking of loading your car, I assume you're mentioning that because this is your departure day. So
it is our departure day.
Are you driving to Animal Kingdom with your car fully packed?
I think that's what we're going to do. For me, I just in my mind don't like the idea of having to get back on a bus to go to my car. I think when I'm ready to leave Animal Kingdom, I'm just going to want to go get in my car and just drive home. So I think we will end up driving over there.
So after you have Tusker House breakfast and use some of your lightning lanes, what time do you think you'll be heading out of Animal Kingdom?
I'm not sure. We're just going to play that one by ear. My kids love animals. I feel like they will really enjoy Animal Kingdom. I think they'll really enjoy the shows, especially the Lion King show. So we're not going to really put a time on leaving. We don't have anything to do Friday when we get home. So if we get home really late, that's fine. I would rather drive through the night with my kids anyway, and they'll probably be so tired that they'll sleep the whole ride home. So it'll be a pleasurable drive for my husband and myself. So I don't know. Just when we get done with everything, we'll leave. And I do have park hopper passes for every day. So I have kind of thought in my mind, like if we finish at Animal Kingdom early and there are some things that we feel like we didn't get to do in another park, we do have that flexibility, to go to another park. I don't know if my husband will want to do that. He probably will be ready to go. But I did splurge on the park hopper tickets to have that opportunity for us if we wanted it.
Yeah, and you need it if you're doing Hollywood Studios and Epcot.
Yes.
On the same day, and you're fitting all 4 parks into just a few park days. So
yep,
that's good. Okay. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a good intro into the parks, and I hope that your kids enjoy it. I hope you guys all do. Is there anything we haven't talked about?
I think that's all.
Okay.
I think it's all. We're excited. We're kind of nervous, but more excited than nervous, and just see how it goes when we get there.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to see, and I will talk to you when you get back.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome back from your trip, Blaize.
Thank you.
We're talking on Monday, April 7th. So you've been back 4 days. How did your quick trip go?
We had a great time. And honestly, I cannot wait to go back.
Yes.
Like I have Since we've been back, I have been planning out scenarios in my head for another trip that my husband will be okay with to go back. I would love to go back again this year. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, that is always the best endorsement is when you want to do it again.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see why it was so fun by walking through it. Starting with Monday, March 31st, you were leaving early to drive to Disney World.
Yep. So we left home about 6 a.m. And like I said before, we're a 4-hour drive away from Disney. And it is an easy 4-hour drive. So we are only about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes from I-75. So we just hop on I-75 and basically just go straight down. We did not encounter hardly any traffic at all. So it was a very easy drive. We got to Disney Springs about 10:30. We walked around Disney Springs until 11, which was when we had a lunch reservation at T-Rex Cafe. My kids loved T-Rex Cafe. They loved the environment. At first, when the explosion or whatever it is happens, they were kind of caught off guard from that. But I explained to them, what it was. And that's when the dinosaurs went extinct. And then they just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought the food was okay, but my husband loved it. And up until another meal we had, it actually was what he said was the best meal he had on the whole trip. But that was good. We enjoyed that. Would probably go again. After we ate lunch, we walked around Disney Springs a little bit more. My kids saw the train and had to ride it. We shopped at the Lego store. My son loves Legos. We went into Once Upon a Toy and the World of Disney. A little tidbit that I have that may be helpful for someone. My wish list of souvenirs had the silhouette portraits on it. And I had read on some message boards where the silhouette portraits were offered at Disney Springs. It took a little bit to find them, but I finally did. But they did not do them immediately. It was about a 2-hour wait to have them done. And we just didn't want to wait that long. So there's a tip. If anyone was holding out to get those done at Disney Springs, just know you've got 2 hours that you've got to wait on them.
And that is very different than like at Magic Kingdom.
Yes. I ended up getting them at Magic Kingdom and they were done immediately.
Yes. I was going to say, it's amazing how quick they can be. So 2 hours is a long wait.
And the cast member that did them at Disney at Magic Kingdom was the absolute nicest gentleman ever. So it was a really enjoyable experience. So I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did, be able to have them done at Magic Kingdom. So I did an early check-in to our resort to Pop Century like a couple days before we left. And so I was kind of expecting to get a text or a message on the app saying that our room was ready. At this point, it was about 1:00. And I never got anything. And finally, my husband and we were kind of just tired of walking around. And I said, you know what? Let's just go ahead and go over to Pop and we'll just go in and see if the room is ready. And if not, we can just drop our bags and just go on about our day and then check in later. So we went ahead and went over and our room was ready. That was about 1:30 when we got there to Pop Century and we were able to go right into our room. That was great. Super easy process, super simple. We got our luggage unloaded and settled in. Our kids were restless at this point. So we decided to go ahead and head over to Fort Wilderness. So my plan was to go to Fort Wilderness, do the pony rides at Tri-Circle D Ranch, possibly eat dinner there at Fort Wilderness, and then do the campfire with Chip and Dale. So we had a little bit of disappointment. We drove to Fort Wilderness. I knew about how long it would take to hop on a bus to get to Magic Kingdom, to get on the ferry, to go to Fort Wilderness, and I really just didn't want to do that. So we drove. And we got to the guard shack and the guard said that we could not get in. And his reasoning was something about a tier 2 or stage 2 renovation. And because of that, they were only allowing people with reservations to come in. And he told us, he was nice about it. He told us, y'all could go back to Magic Kingdom and, take a boat. But at that time, we just didn't want to invest that much time into that. So we just went back to Pop. Our kids saw the pool, the big pool, and they were dying to get in it. And then they walked past the big pool and saw the kiddie pool. And we stayed at the kiddie pool for about 2 hours. And when I say kiddie pool, it's more of a splash pad. I guess I should probably clarify that. We stayed there for about 2 hours and they had a blast. So I was disappointed that we were not able to get into Fort Wilderness, My kids never knew the difference. And to be honest, they probably enjoyed splashing around at the kiddie pool more than they would have enjoyed doing what I had planned at Fort Wilderness anyway. After they were done swimming, we went and I got them bathed off. And then we went to the food court at Pop Century and had dinner. And then we just went back to our room for an early night.
And that was that. Did you make room requests when you checked in?
I did. I requested 60s and 70s building. And we were in, goodness, I'm not going to be able to remember what building it was now, but it faced, you know, where Mickey is on the telephone? That was almost right outside of our room on the second floor. So we were in what I feel like was a great location. It was less than a 3-minute walk to the pool, a 3-minute walk to the food court, whatever, the classic hall at Pop Century. And then it ended up being about a 4-minute walk to the Skyliner, 4 to 5-minute walk to the Skyliner.
Okay. And I think the Mickey phone is in the 70s section. Yeah.
So maybe it was 70s.
It was building 6 and 10.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, our room was 1020 was our room number.
Okay. And was that a standard room or a preferred room?
I think it was a preferred room. I think that after the trip was booked by our travel agent, we were able to upgrade to a preferred room.
Okay, that's a really good spot.
Yeah, it was great.
Because you are close to Classic Hall, you are close to the bus stop.
Yes.
And you're close to the main pool, but you're not close enough that the noise would be a problem, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. For me, it was a great location and for our kids.
Okay. That would be fantastic. So I'm glad you got a great spot then. Okay. So let's dive into your park stays, starting with Tuesday, April 1st, where you had plans to go to Magic Kingdom.
All right. So day 2 was our Magic Kingdom day. We're early risers. My kids are used to getting up really early, and my husband and I are as well. So we did this on vacation. We left Pop Century about 7:15. And I told my husband the night before, I said, okay, so there are these things. They're called minivans. They're operated by Lyft. If you think you may want to get one in the morning, let me know, because I'm going to try to book it about 60 minutes before we're ready for it. And he was like, well, what's our other alternative? And I said, the bus. And they say that the lines can be really long for the bus. And he said, let's do the minivan. So I booked the minivan about an hour before, and I was immediately able to get one. And so we, finished getting ready, walked out. We went into Classic Hall, got our coffee, got the kids some juice, and my husband saw the line for the bus and he said, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I'm glad that you got the minivan.
Uh-huh.
And so we were in the minivan at 7:15. It was great. Our driver was awesome. We were trying to help her, and in the nicest way possible, she was like, let me just do it. Y'all just enjoy this. Let me put the car seats in for y'all. Let me get the stroller loaded up. She gave us a lot of tips about booking the minivan at night, and that was helpful. It reminds me of that in a minute, because that was a helpful tip when we went to leave Magic Kingdom on day 2. But so she gave us some tips on that. Then just talked general park things like her history with Disney. It was just a nice ride there. We were at Magic Kingdom by 7:30, 7:45. And then by 8:30, we were on the teacups. We did teacups, Dumbo, Tomorrowland Speedway, Barnstormer, Carousel, Enchanted Tales with Belle, with no lightning lane passes at all. And the only one of those that was more than a 5-minute wait was Dumbo and Enchanted Tales with Belle. And we were actually the first group to go into Enchanted Tales with Belle. So we literally were just waiting in line for them to open the doors for that. Our lightning lane passes did not start until 10:30. And that was with Under the Sea with the Little Mermaid. And so I had back-to-back passes for Under the Sea with the Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, and Winnie the Pooh. So we did all those back-to-back. And then after I checked into Little Mermaid, I was immediately able to get a lightning lane for Small World. So we were able to do a lightning lane for that. And that is all we rode that morning. So I didn't tell you this early when we had our first chat, because at the time I didn't plan this. But on the way down, My husband and I were talking and just about the trip in general and us doing this. And I started feeling kind of bad that I hadn't carved out anything for him that was special for him. And he likes to eat nice meals when we go off places. So I got on the app and I was able to book a 1 p.m. lunch reservation at the Contemporary for Steakhouse 71. So I booked that lunch reservation. So after we were done with those handfuls of rides, about 12:45, we headed for the monorail. So we took the monorail over to the Contemporary for lunch at Steakhouse 71. We weren't impressed. He had a prime rib sandwich. I had a wedge salad. The kids had burgers. Maybe my hopes were too high. Maybe it was because it was lunch, but we've had better. Anyway, but it was a nice experience. It was nice to be in the Contemporary. Riding the monorail was neat. So after lunch, we hopped back on the monorail, went to Magic Kingdom, and then we rode the bus. So we rode the bus back to Pop for our midday break. We went back to Pop. We had our naps. We got some rest. Then we hopped back on the bus to go back to Magic Kingdom. And the bus midday is awesome. There were maybe 5 people on there. So my husband didn't mind riding the bus then because there was no one there except for us, really. So
how long of a break did you take?
We took about a 2-hour break because by 4:30 we were headed back to Magic Kingdom.
And your kids, they nap?
They did. They were only, by the time they got to sleep, they only both took about a 45-minute nap. They're both used to about a 2-hour nap. My daughter's used to a 3-hour nap. So they really should have slept for longer because the meltdowns that night started happening about 8:00, simply because they didn't have a long enough nap. But once we got back to Magic Kingdom, I had a lightning lane for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. We loved it. So my daughter, after she rode the Barnstormer, she became a ride fiend. And I did not anticipate that happening at all. My son was a little apprehensive, but after we rode it, they both just had the best time. And now they are still saying that was their favorite ride. Then I had a lightning lane for Pirates. And then I had a lightning lane for the Haunted Mansion. My son was begging to ride the carousel again. So we rode the carousel again. And then I had a lightning lane for Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin. So we did that. That was a lot of fun. It was about this time that the meltdown started happening for the kids. And we're getting on up to like 8:00, 8:30-ish time frame. I had planned on us eating dinner at Tony's Town Square. And my app studying prior to our trip made me think, I really don't need a reservation. Because I would check it all throughout the day and there was no standby, no wait list, nothing like that. Well, we get there and they're not taking walk-ins. And she was like, you can try the app to see if you can get, book a reservation. So I was able to do that, but it still was another 30-minute wait for us to actually get in and get seated. And this was the only time that we really had issues with dining because they weren't accepting walk-ins. And then I did the reservation in the app, but it kept sending me messages telling me to go back to the hostess stand. Then the hostess stand was telling me that everything was fine, but then I was having to recheck in, and it just kind of seemed very discombobulated to me. And I don't know if it was my fault. It probably was, but I should have made reservations for Tony's that morning. Looking back on it, that's what I should have done just to give us peace of mind about it and maybe the opportunity to just walk straight in, which was what we were able to do at the rest of our dining. But anyway, nevertheless, we got in to Tony's and we weren't impressed with the food again. I had read reviews that it wasn't that great, but my daughter loves Lady and the Tramp, and that was my driving factor in going, was because she loves the Lady and the Tramp. But I don't know that it was worth it. We probably won't eat there again.
Both of the places that you ate at the steak get mixed reviews. So I'm sorry that you ended up on the negative side of the mixed reviews.
And I should have done more research on Steakhouse 71, but it kind of was a spur of the moment decision to make that reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know. So the quest will continue to find a good steakhouse at Disney. And I think my husband is up for that challenge.
There are some good ones.
Yes. Yes, I hear that. But anyway, we
Okay.
had a great day at Magic Kingdom. There was a lot we did not get to do, and I feel like we missed out on a lot. But I also have had to tell myself that we did what we could with our kids being the age they are, and the kids still had a good experience. And push them, they enjoyed it. So, and that's what matters. Not not checking a long list of everything we could possibly do in one day.
Yeah, and people that do want to do everything usually do allow 2 days for Magic Kingdom, and you didn't have that. So it makes sense that you did all of Fantasyland, it sounds like, and then a few other things.
Yes.
So that makes sense. So after Tony's, is that when you left the park?
We did. So after Tony's, we left, and Main Street was super crowded. Now, I do love to shop, and my husband knows that. And so thankfully, he was like, hey, I'll keep the kids. My kids wanted a balloon so bad. So we went and got them a balloon. And then my husband and my kids sat down on Main Street for a little while I went into the Emporium to do some shopping. But it was so busy in there at that time. This was right after fireworks. It was so busy that like I couldn't even like focus on one single item. So I just walked out, and then we left. And before we walked out, while we were still on Main Street, I booked our minivan. And so the tip that the driver gave us that morning was, when you get on the app at night, it's going to take a while for them to place you with a driver. She said, but do not close your app and don't like try to redo it or anything like that. She said, just be patient and stay on the app. She said, but it could take up to 10 minutes. And it did. It took 10 minutes for them to get us with a driver. But once we did get a driver, he was there within the next 10 minutes. And there were some other families at the minivan pickup that I don't know what was going on with them, but like it was dropping their trips and their drivers were taking a really long time. And I felt kind of bad because they had been sitting there for a while, and a minivan would pull up and they would think it was theirs and it wouldn't be. And it happened that was two families. They were still sitting there when we left. And then one mom and her daughter, like they ended up just leaving. So I don't know really what was going on with that, but we were lucky that we got ours and that there was no issue. And the driver that we had that night, he was a great guy. We really enjoyed him.
I wonder if their app didn't match them with the driver and they just didn't realize it.
I don't know. That's what it maybe sounded like. And because that's what the lady was talking about earlier in the day. And that people will get on and like it shows that there are no rides, but there really are rides. They're just, not close enough by. But I don't know, the technicalities of all of it. But her key was to be patient with it and do not get out of the app.
Okay. Good to know. That was your Magic Kingdom day.
I'm no tech genius, but I knew if I wanted my business to crush it, I needed a website now. Thankfully, Bluehost made it easy. I customized, optimized, and monetized everything exactly how I wanted with AI. In minutes, my site was up. I couldn't believe it. The search engine tools even helped me get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, you can set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what do you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com. That's BLUEHOST.com to start now.
The next day was Wednesday, April 2nd, and you were starting at Hollywood Studios.
So day 3, this is our park hop day. We started in Hollywood Studios, and the Skyliner was our mode of transportation this day. And we loved the Skyliner. It felt like another ride. My husband wasn't the biggest fan of it because it goes a lot higher than you think that it's going to go. It's a lot higher than it looks when you're, driving down the road and you see it up above you. We were in line for the Skyliner by 7:15, and we were on the Skyliner by 7:45, 7:50. So the line was not moving when we got there, but then once the Skyliner started up, it went really fast. But I am glad that we got there when we did because that line quickly got very long. So I would say that 7 o'clock, 7:15 is the sweet spot to getting in line for the Skyliner, or for us it was. I had lightning lanes for Toy Story Mania and Alien Swirling Saucers that morning, but we didn't even use them. And I made a rookie mistake. And instead of, scanning into those rides, I just deleted or just canceled the lightning lane. But I'm pretty sure that I should have scanned into the rides and not canceled the lightning lane because it kept me from being able to book other lightning. So rookie mistake that I will not make again. But anyway, we didn't need lightning lanes for those. We literally walked right on. I did not have a lightning lane booked for Slinky Dog, but my little girl saw it and she had to ride it. And my husband and I tried to talk her out of it. I felt like it was going to be too much for her. And she started crying. And, I just told myself I'm not going to be the parent that, because I don't really want to ride Slinky Dog, keeps my kid from riding it. So she and I got in line for Slinky Dog. At that point, the park had opened up. So we were the last people to get in line that were like resort guests. And as we were getting in line, you can see the flood of everybody else coming in. We did stand in line for Slinky Dog probably for about 30 minutes. And while we did that, my husband and my son ate at Woody's lunchbox. My daughter did not love Slinky Dog.
Oh,
it was too much for her. She was shaking when we got off of it.
really? It's so interesting because it feels so kind of close to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train to me in intensity.
I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know if it seemed higher to her or faster. I know to me it seemed a little bit faster. Maybe it's not, but it just seemed like it was.
Yeah, I think it is a little, and it does more of the drops over and over again. So it kind of depends what her fear is, I guess.
I hope she's not scarred for life.
She asked to do it, I guess.
She did. She wanted to do it. And, maybe when she's a little older, she'll be okay with it again. But my kids both will still say their favorite was Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So maybe for her, it's just Slinky Dog. Maybe it's not all roller coasters at this point. My husband liked Woody's lunchbox. Oh, and I did a mobile order for this. While my daughter and I were in line, I did a mobile order for Woody's lunchbox, screenshotted the order to my husband, and he was able to pick it up. And I tried the new Pop-Tart with the key lime Pop-Tart. It was delicious. And my kids loved it too. So that was a good decision. After that, we did get to see the Green Army Men. That was pretty cool. After that, we went and got on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I did have a lightning lane for this, and I loved it. It was adorable. And my kids loved it too. Mine and my daughter's favorite part was the room where Daisy is dancing. So we really loved that part. After that, we did Frozen Ever After. It was okay.
Not Frozen Ever After. The Frozen sing-along?
Yeah, the sing-along. Yeah, sorry. It was okay. My daughter fell asleep, and my son, he likes watching Frozen, but he could not have cared any less about, seeing them on stage. And I guess it is good for adults because the two people that are leading the show, they are making more like adult type jokes. But the adults were laughing a whole lot. The kids weren't laughing as much. You could tell the kids really just wanted to see Anna and Elsa. But it was good. I could imagine that in the summer when it's really hot, that would be a nice little retreat out of the heat. Before Frozen Ever After, we met Olaf. And my kids loved meeting Olaf. There was no line to meet him. So we just walked right on in and he was great. After that, we left. I didn't really feel like, it was a weird time. Like I wanted to do the Disney Junior dance and play, but one had just went in and it was going to be a while before another one. And I could tell my kids were just getting kind of tired. And I didn't think that was something that they were just going to super love. So my husband and I just made a decision to hop on the Skyliner and go back to Pop Century. I mobile ordered lunch from Classic Hall while we were on the Skyliner and picked it up when we got there, and we went and ate our lunch in the room. The macaroni and cheese is delicious. It is so good. We rested for a while, 2 to 3 hours, and then we got back on the Skyliner to head to Epcot.
And had you been getting lightning lanes at Epcot in the morning?
So once I scanned into, once I scanned into Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I was able to get a lightning lane for Remy's. And that was really the only thing that I wanted to get a lightning lane for at Epcot. And I was. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't until like 8 o'clock. So I knew, we were going to have quite a time I hate to say kill at Epcot because there was plenty to do, but quite a big space of time that we were going to have to wait to get on Remy's. I should also add in that I did pay for a week for standby skipper. It was able to get me some rides while we were at Magic Kingdom, and like it actually got us Jungle Cruise while we were at Magic Kingdom, but it was super late and we were ready to go by that point, so we didn't use it. But it was not able to get me any rides for anything other than Magic Kingdom. That was probably user error. I'm not sure. I felt like I was really try my best to work the Lightning Lane system to our advantage. So that could have been my fault, but I do think it's something that I would pay for again. I do think it was useful. All right. So once we got to Epcot, we rode the Skyliner over to Epcot. We got there. We just walked around. My husband loved looking at the flowers and the plants. His job deals with native plant species in our part of the world. So that was very interesting to him. It was really cool to see him enjoy that. For me, that was neat. We found one of the really cool playgrounds. I believe it was the playground that was sponsored by Off Bug Spray. It was outside of the really big gift shop at Epcot. It's not Connections, whatever the name of it is.
Creations,
yes. That playground right outside of Creations. My kids, I had gotten a drink and then gotten the kids a drink. And so my husband and I sat down there and let them play for a while, and they loved it. They didn't want to leave, but we had to because we wanted to go meet Anna and Elsa before our dinner reservation. So I did not have a lightning lane to meet Anna and Elsa. I don't think that there was one available for that.
They don't have one.
We did stand in line for that for a while, but it was worth it. They were great with the kids. We got some really good pictures, and it was neat to be in their house. So we did that, and then we had a 6 p.m. dinner reservation at Garden Grill. Garden Grill was absolutely delicious. It was so good. My husband loved it. He said it was worth every penny. We enjoyed the characters. We got to see them all more than once. We only saw Chip and Dale once, but everyone else, we saw them twice. They're great with my kids. Very willing to get pictures. It was a great time. We really enjoyed Garden Grill and would certainly eat there again.
Were you seated in the outside of the?
We weren't, and that was my fault because I requested first available.
Okay.
So if we did it again, we would sit on the outside, but it didn't hinder the experience any, in my opinion. I honestly think that my kids are the age that they would have just been really distracted. Because they would have really noticed the restaurant moving. And I think for this trip where we sat like kind of more on the inside was better. But if we ate there again, we probably would request to be seated on the outside.
Okay. I'm glad you liked it.
It was great. After that, we rode the land ride. We loved it. Once again, that, my husband works kind of in plants. That was fun. That great. We enjoyed it. We wanted to go ride Soarin'. And my daughter was about half an inch too short, and they absolutely would not let her ride. We were a little disappointed there, but, I obviously understand why. So then we decided to strike out to Nemo. And Nemo closed early because they are doing renovations. But next to Nemo is Moana's Journey of Water, and my kids loved it. We had to pull them away from this.
And at this point, it's evening. So
it was evening at this point. So it was dusk.
Yeah.
It was very pretty.
Yeah.
You got to see it all lit up. It was nice. We got to take some really cool pictures. It was a little crowded, but not, to where it was difficult to navigate or anything like that. But my kids really loved that, and it was pretty to look at. After Moana, at this point, it's like nearly 8 o'clock. So we struck out to Remy's, and I'm glad we went then because the countries headed back towards Remy's. those streets were starting to get really crowded. The drinking crowd, if you will, they were starting to get fired up. So I'm glad we headed back when we did, or else we probably would have had some trouble getting through the streets there. But we rode Roomies, and it was one of my favorite rides, and my kids too. It was so cute. And my kids aren't super big Roomie fans. Like, we've watched the movie a time or two, but it was the absolute cutest ride and just fun. It was just a fun ride. I'm glad we had a lightning lane for it because the standby line was very long. I don't remember how many minutes it was, but it was really long. And then after that, so I had a wish list going into this trip. And 2 things on my wish list were an espresso martini and a cannoli. And my husband knew that. So after Remy's, he said, "Do you want to go get your drink and your cannoli?" And I said, "No, let's head back to the Skyliner." So we beat the crowd back to the Skyliner. We walked right on and headed back to Pop. And we got back to our room probably about 8:30, 8:45, and went to bed.
And went to bed.
Yep.
Okay. So you got a little sampler of Hollywood Studios and Epcot this year.
And honestly, I wish that, just reflecting, I wish that we would have actually had our park hop day be a half day at Magic Kingdom. So go back to Magic Kingdom for a half day and do everything we didn't do, and then go to Epcot. Reflecting back on it, that's what I would have done.
And in that case, skipping Hollywood Studios.
I would have skipped Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot to do about Magic Kingdom, particularly with little ones.
Yes.
Okay. So the next day was your last park day and departure, which was Thursday, April 3rd at Animal Kingdom.
Yep. So day 4 was our Animal Kingdom day. We drove to Animal Kingdom because obviously we were planning on leaving to go home from there. I kind of wish we would have ridden the bus over so that we would have gotten dropped off right there at the gate. We didn't have to walk a long way, but by the time we got there, I mean, it was still early entry hours when we got there. It was only about 8 o'clock, but it was starting to just get a little crowded. But I knew that if we rode the bus over there, that when we got ready to leave that afternoon, we were just going to be ready to leave. We weren't going to want to hop back on a bus and then, do all that logistical stuff. So anyway, we were seated at Tusker House eating by 8:30. Wonderful experience.
Okay.
Worth every penny. The food was delicious. At this point, this was the first Mickey waffle that I had on our trip. And I don't know what they put in a Mickey waffle that is not in a regular waffle, but they are so good. And I get the hype.
It's magic.
I get the hype. Waffle House don't have anything on a Mickey waffle.
And I don't think it's just the shape. It's got to be something in the batter.
It's the flavor. It's the flavor. But the characters at Tusker House were great. I have the sweetest video of my son and Goofy. The lady that was sitting next to us, she started crying. And I looked over and I just kind of looked at her and she was like, "That was the sweetest thing I have ever seen." And like, she had kids of her own there and she's crying over watching my son and Goofy. Like, Goofy, got down on his knees and was just hugging my son and like let him pull on his ears. And my son's 4, so, it's not like he's a baby or anything, but it was sweet. And we got to see all of the characters there at Tusker House twice as well. So, and they danced with the kids. It was a very fun environment. So I would absolutely do Tusker House again for sure.
Good. I'm glad you had 2 good character meals.
We did. Those were our favorites. Our favorite dining was the character meals. And obviously they cost way more. But my husband, he said, you get what you pay for. And he had no issue, no qualms at all with the cost of the character meals. So that made me feel good and gave me some peace of mind. After we were done eating at Tusker House, we walked out and we were like, whoa, where did all these people come from? Because it had gotten really crowded while we were eating. But my son saw the otter exhibit on our way in and he wanted to go see them. So after we were done eating, we went and saw the otters. And then we went and got in line for the Lion King show. That was great. We loved that. Very enjoyable. the cast members that do that are so talented. Just so talented, so interactive.
To me, it's like going to a Broadway show.
Yes.
They're that
Yeah.
talented.
They really are, or Cirque du Soleil almost. They were great. So after that, we had a lightning lane for Kilimanjaro Safari. And I don't know that we could have had a better experience on that. We got to see every animal except for the warthogs. And so there were 2 trucks in front of us, and one of the trucks had to stop. And our driver said it was probably because something was crossing the road. So we actually were stopped for about 20 minutes, and there's a new baby elephant, and she's learning how to swim. So our truck got first row seats to watching the new baby elephant learn how to swim for about 20 minutes.
That is a long stop, but for such a good reason.
It was, and it wasn't too hot. So I would not have wanted to be stuck at 2:00 in the afternoon. But at this point, it was still a little cool in the morning. So it wasn't bad at all. And we really enjoyed that. So after that, after Safari, I had a lightning lane for Dinosaur. And we got there, and my daughter was about an inch too short. So, and my husband was of the mindset that if she can't ride, none of us are riding, because they were like, well, y'all can do rider swap and it's fine. And he did not want to do that. And she's to the age where, a smaller kid, you may have been able to pacify them with a trip to the gift shop or let's go look at an animal, but she knows that she's missing out and she does not want to miss out. So it would have been probably a full day meltdown had we not walked away from the ride. After that, I had a lightning lane for Navi River Journey, or I had the lightning lanes for Dinosaur and Navi River Journey were overlapping. So we were able to walk away from Dinosaur and walk right to Navi River Journey. That was nice. I'm glad that we had lightning lanes for that, because I don't know that I would have stood in line for it.
No.
I think it was about either a 45 or 65-minute wait. And we walked right on with our lightning lane passes. After Navi River Journey, I attempted Kali River Rapids. Now, I did have a lightning lane for this. Standby Skipper got me a lightning lane for this, but it wasn't until 3:30. And at this point in the day, it was about 12, and I just didn't know how much longer my kids were going to hold out. So we went over to the ride. They told us that the ride was backed up. And they said, but you could still get in line, but it's backed up. And we said, well, how long? And the guy was like, I have no idea. They don't tell me that info. They just tell me that the line is backed up. And he said, but you are welcome to try. So after about 30 minutes in line, we left. My daughter was tall enough, but my kids were literally starting to fade quickly. They're getting hungry again. So we just walked away. We went and ate Flame Tree Barbecue, and that was probably the best quick service that we had the whole trip. I did the mobile order, and then we went and sat down at a little landing that's like right over that lake that looks across the lake to Expedition Everest. And so it was a very cool area to sit in, both visually and in terms of temperature. So we were getting the breeze that was coming off of that lake. And it was very nice to sit down there. It was quiet. There weren't very many people, and the food was good. After that, my kids wanted one more souvenir. So we went into the big souvenir shop that's right there across from Flame Tree Barbecue, and we let them both pick out another souvenir. And then we headed home.
And then you headed home just as you expected.
And we had a great drive home. And I would just say that for us in South Georgia, not to make anyone else feel bad, but for us folk in South Georgia, we have the absolute easiest 4-hour drive to Disney World.
Yeah. Jealous. Never driven, never will. But I'm not in South Georgia either. So, well, that sounds like a pretty good trip. How did you feel about going this time of year in terms of the weather and the crowds?
So what I have told everyone since we've been back about the crowds is do not let what you see in pictures or on social media discourage you. Because if you see a picture that someone took on Main Street in Magic Kingdom, it looks very crowded. But that is like the central hub of Magic Kingdom. And once you get out into other parts of the park, it's really not that bad. I will say there is a huge difference in early entry crowd and then just general admission crowd. That makes a huge difference. So I would also encourage anyone, if you're able to stay there at Disney so that you can get in early. I think it's very much worth it. But honestly, like the crowds weren't that bad. I gave someone the analogy earlier. I would rather be in a crowd at Disney World than Walmart. But we didn't think they were that bad.
What about the weather?
We're used to the heat in South Georgia. The only day that I would say was really hot was day 4 at Animal Kingdom, and it did start getting really hot that day. I don't know that I would ever go to Disney in July. If I did, it would probably be a day trip situation. But, I mean, we're used to the heat, so it's not that big of a deal for us.
Yeah. Animal Kingdom is also, it feels hot to me.
So it did me too, and I kept trying to figure out why, because really there's a lot of shade there.
There's a lot of shade, but there isn't a ton of breaks from the heat. For instance, Epcot is like basically a bunch of buildings that you can go in and out of. So you get kind of breaks. Animal Kingdom has a lot of outdoor queues and like Flame Tree Barbecue, you're eating outside.
Yes.
So I think that's part of it, but I don't know. It just feels warmer.
Yeah, it did to me too. I get that.
Okay. So in general, going this time of year worked out for you in terms of weather.
It did. Yep, absolutely. Have no issue about going this time of year.
And staying at Pop Century.
I would stay there again. So I'm already looking at planning another trip. And I was looking last night at resorts, and I don't know that I would ever stay somewhere that didn't have access to the Skyliner. It was so easy, and it was fun for the kids.
Do you have a stroller that they both sit in?
We do, and it's a side-by-side, so we did have to break it down every time, and that was a little bit of a hassle, but, I mean, my husband never complained about it, so it wasn't that big of a deal for us.
Yeah, but if you go and you only need a single stroller, then you can skip that stuff.
Straight on. And we actually even talked about, or I mentioned to my husband, I was like, hey, I thought about it a little bit better. We could have just brought 2 single strollers. He said, well, I'm doing this better because we, weren't really having to like keep up with each other or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, pros and cons.
Right.
To both. On the bus, you have to break it down no matter what.
That's right.
So, whatever. How did you feel about using the Lightning Lane system?
I will never go and not use it. My husband, and now I know I keep referencing my husband, and the reason that I'm doing that is because I just did not expect him to enjoy this. He never went as a child. This is not his kind of thing. He's very like rugged, masculine, like outdoors, hunting, that kind of guy. I just didn't think he would enjoy it, and he enjoyed it so much. And we would be in lines, and he would say, or we would walk by a ride, and he would say, do you have a lightning lane for that? And I would be like, yeah. And he would just be like, okay, good. Like, he started referring to stuff as lightning lanes and asking me if I had lightning lanes for all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah. Or he would say, can you get a lightning lane for that? And it was just funny to me. But yeah, there's no way that I would go and not have lightning lanes. No way. I do want to get better at the tips and the tricks of lightning lanes. Like instead of canceling it, scanning in.
Yeah, because then you can immediately start booking another one, which is nice. But it's a lot to learn. That's why I'm asking, because you have to learn so many different things about it. So next time you can refine your techniques now that you've had a little bit of experience. So wanting to go back is obviously a good sign. What are you thinking for next time?
So I have 2 thoughts in my mind as far as going back. I want to do one of the holiday parties. And since we're only about 4 hours away, one thing that I have in mind, we have a fall break coming up in October, and it's a Friday and a Monday. So what I'm thinking is leaving the Thursday night that we get out of school, since I'm a teacher too, leaving the Thursday night that we get out of school. And then that Friday, not have a general park ticket, but instead just have a ticket to the holiday party. If there is a holiday party that day, if it works out like this. And then do the early entry into the park and stay late. And then, so that would be on like a Friday that we would do the holiday party. And then the next day on a Saturday, maybe just do like Animal Kingdom or maybe just do Epcot and then come home Sunday. So that kind of situation, or, do a similar thing like around Christmas. Or, and this is funny, but while my husband and I were at Epcot, I told him that it would be fun for myself, and his cousin's wife to go. And I expected him to blow it off. I expected him to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But last night we were eating supper and he said, I talked to my cousin about a trip to Disney World. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I talked to him about it and, told him about it and everything. And he said, and before I left, my cousin said, well, just let us know when y'all are wanting to go.
Nice.
So he's ready for like that kind of couples trip. And if we did that, it would probably be just Epcot and maybe Animal Kingdom. And our 10th anniversary is next year. And I was like, well, maybe for our 10th anniversary. And he was like, well, if we go for our anniversary, I don't want anyone else going. So, I don't know. I would love to go back this year. I'd love to go back this year. And I'm just going to have to see if we can swing it. But
I'm guessing your fall break is the Friday the 10th, right? Over the long weekend there.
It would actually be, let me look at my calendar.
In October?
It would be the 17th and the 20th.
Okay, that's better. I was going to warn you if it was the week before. That's very busy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. 17th is better.
Okay.
In terms of crowds and stuff.
Yeah. So why is the 17th better? Is there something going on?
So over October 13th is Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day. And a lot of people have their fall break then. And they always think it's not going to be busy. And it's the busiest I've ever seen it.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. Well, that would work out good for us then.
It would. It might still be, fairly busy, but it won't be nearly as busy. Yeah. So that would be really fun. So Halloween or Christmas or adults only.
Adults only. Yeah. And I would like the adults only just because I feel like, they're like Epcot just seems so cool. I really want to try the steakhouse at the Canada Pavilion. That's my next steakhouse on the search to find the best steak at Disney. And, I just know like at my kids' age, they're just not going to enjoy that kind of thing. And I'm just not going to drag my kids along if they're not going to enjoy it,
Yeah, it would be fun to do rides that they're not interested in restaurants, tours,
right,
whatever. There's so many things you can do if you don't have little ones. Obviously, pros and cons. So, all right. Well, I'm so glad you had such a good trip that you want to go back, not just someday, but this year.
Yes.
So, and now you have a lot of information. So you won't have to study nearly as much next time.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to share, Blaize.
All right. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that trip report. I think it is just the biggest compliment to Blaize's planning and research that they want to go back because they had such a good time. And I hope they get to. Speaking of that, we did continue our chat on Patreon where we talked about future trip plans, the hardest part of planning, and I listed out some steakhouse recommendations since that was a big important thing for her husband so that they can hopefully include that in their next trip. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep To Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 457. Until next time, I'll see you on the site.